It's another different punters guide because the turf flat season is starting, and delighted to say he's there, Jason Weaver, back punch in the air, ready for the summer. I say ready for the summer, I'm well and truly into the spring, but it's going to be like midwinter Foss last ground at Doncaster to kick us off, Jason. It'll be heavy going for the start of the flat season.
Yeah, it will. It'll be a real tough start. You're going to have horses that will absolutely specialise in these conditions. And it's a funny start to the campaign, isn't it? We jump off with Doncaster. The following weekend, we're going to be Good Friday up at Newcastle for the all-weather finals. Then we roll back into Aintree, and then we'll be coming back to headquarters for the Craven meeting before we really do start the motor with the flat racing. But I think they'll be fairly happy with the turnout on Town Moor.
Yeah, there will be a 2-day meeting. It gets us on Saturdays, of course, the Lincoln, but we start with the listed Doncaster mile, over a mile, and 7 are set to go and face the starter. And I say this is the race that will kickstart the brand new season.
Yeah, and it's a funny one. I always loved it when they started with an apprentice race because the young kid would get the opportunity to be champion jockey for the start of that season for one little period. Anyway, we jump off in listed company. Charing brings in one piece of form when he was fairly close up behind Paddington in the St James's Palace. That's very good. Holloway Boy, you'll remember him winning the Chesham on his debut. Didn't run too bad in the Futurity down here behind August Rodin on one occasion. And I suppose he didn't run bad. That was in the Jersey when we last saw him. That wasn't a bad sort of run. Gray's Monument and Astral Bow, who goes for back-to-back victories, respected. But Knight, there's no surprise he is at the top of the market. He fairly bolted up at Newbury. He looked really good in the that was in the Horace Hill. He ran, or his only 2 poor runs were in the Greenham and the Darley at Newmarket. Bar that, he hasn't done a lot wrong. And I think the second to Chindit at Sandown is strong. He loves the ground. Visor on. I think we might well start with a winning favourite.
Right then, remember you did your favourite that day, 10-1. We won the Horace Hill in soft ground, and that's what it'll be this weekend. Right, the 2-year-olds, 150, the Brocklesby, and I say this will be a heavy going for the juveniles. But Ammo Racing have got one in there. They won the race with a nice type last year. They're already off the mark in Ireland with a juvenile. I'm guessing that'll be the focus of many punters' attention.
Yeah, I don't think that David Egan could have got the combination off to a better start. Turns up in Ireland, they win the first juvenile race of the season, and Mystical Elegance, 45,000. When you go down through all of these, there is only one horse in the lineup that cost a little bit more, and it was 47,000 as a yearling for Dukes of Hathor for the Adrian Keatley Oshin Orr combination. All the others, normally we do have a few expensive runners in here, don't we? So for the first juvenile campaign or first juvenile race, it has a real open look to it. You know, Bill Turner, Bob the Bandit. It would be just like Bill to have his ripping fit and ready to go. And if it comes down to fitness, you can rely on Bill Turner. But the paddock is going to be all important. And listen, if you're lucky enough to be in the shop in the warm, you're going to get a good view of the babies in the paddock.
You certainly will, yes. So that's the Brocklesby. Nothing to go on there. Plenty to go on for the Spring Mile, the consolation race for the Lincoln itself, of course, over the mile. 18 go to Poston. Not only for this race, which is a big betting handicap and a wide open contest, Jason, they'll give you an idea regards the draw for the big one itself.
Yeah, it was funny. Years gone by, everybody used to go up against that standside rail. Since they built the hotel at the end of the track, horses tend to lean off that as they come in, as you're running into a little bit of an alleyway, or that's what they look like as they're coming down there at 35, 40 miles an hour. Yeah, it'll give us a good guide. It's funny, looking at some of the prices. I mean, Lion Tower, Look Back Smiling, Dirty Old Town, they're all 7 furlong specialists, aren't they? You know, this is going to take a good bit of getting on heavy ground. I was really surprised that Reese Clutterbuck rides Dirty Old Town. He's now stable jockey for Dylan Cooner. Dylan also runs Expressionless. I thought he had a much better chance than the other runner. However, that would tell me possibly Expressionless is going to need the run. I'm going to go for one drawn high. I was at Wolverhampton when Helter Skelter ran behind what I think is a pretty decent horse in Aerospace. That was its first run for the Rebecca Menzies team. The horse watchers, the boys, they went in, they spent a few euros to get him over from Ireland. Really, really good run. Looked like a prep. He turns up here off 74. I think it'll be all guns blazing. Sorry, he's drawn in 3, isn't he? Helter Skelter. So he'll be over on that far side.
Here we are then. Helter Skelter then, yes, very shrewd. Of course, the horse watchers. The Cambridgeshire Trophy comes along at 3 o'clock. 7 go here, but Carl Burke expecting a decent season from Marshman. His first to step on a racecourse as a 4-year-old. But he won't go his own way. Baradar and Orazio. Certainly Baradar doesn't seem to mind this ground.
Yeah, look, and Baradar's got a 2 from 4 record at Doncaster. Loves a bit of dig. He'll be fit coming from that team, won't he, George Bowie? Marshman, the only time he galloped on soft ground was in the Group 3 pre-Seagy over at Shanty and managed to get the job done. Carl Burke, again, they're not going to need a run coming from there, are they? And I struggle to see any of the others, maybe Orazio, but the 3 down the bottom, I think, have got to step up significantly. The one that I like is Montasib. Did us a bit of a favour last year. He probably should have won the Air Gold Cup. He then turned the form around with the Air Gold Cup winner when winning at York. Kieran Fallon, he'll be back in action Friday to blow away the cobwebs. And this is his first big ride return to the saddle. He's only recently been remodelled by the excellent team as a sprinter. And that is going to be key. We know he stays further. You're going to need that in the locker as well. Montasib, I quite like it.
There we go then, Montasib, yes, in the Cammage. What about the big one itself then? The Lincoln, the big handicap, of course, that starts the season. The first leg of the spring double with the Grand National, the second leg, which is still 3 weeks away. Last 2 winners top the weights in Migration and Johan. We've got Liberty Lane prominent, and we've got a horse we saw on Monday. We know he's fit, winning the Irish Lincoln, trying to double up. Do you fancy 2 against the field?
Yeah, well, I suppose you can. Yeah, I can have 2. I've got one particular fancy a long time ago. You know, the horses in training sale. It's always an interesting time, isn't it? And you see a lot of them. The lesser lights will change hand for little money. Some of the better horses, a few quid. Latam wasn't cheap out of William Haggis's team. Now, the fact that the Camachos went in, he last season tried to do exactly what Chesame is trying to do here. Won the Irish Lincoln and then came back to run in this. Didn't really happen for him. He ran a nice race. I'm not saying he's well handicapped, but my angle in is that the team are known for bringing their horses to the races fresh. They always progress with each and every run. That's their model. And some horses are suited to that. Latam, I think he's the ideal type who will really appreciate returning back straight mile. Difficult ground is absolutely ideal. I think he's a bit of an each-way player as well. And he's just scraping into still double digits. He was backed at fancy prices early on. So still around 10 to 1. I think that Latam has to go really, really well.
Yes, the last 2 Irish Lincoln winners, of course, and the just 2 Lincoln winners in there. So Latam and Judy Camacho getting a nice team together, isn't she, up in the north? So are you relying on Latam? Do you fancy another dart?
Yeah, well, I suppose if I was going to throw one in there, I'd probably be looking towards the top. Here's a good line for you. Migration, who managed to win last year, Paddy Bradley is on 94 winners. He had that 94th winner about a week ago over at Wolverhampton. Decided not to ride again because he didn't want to lose his £3 claim to ride this horse. The reason that Manoussier booked him for it was his £3 allowance. And we know that he's a real classy runner. I think the Migration has to go well again. But no, main pick, Latam.
Keeping with Latam then. And before we let you go, here's the start of the new season, as you say, although it doesn't feel it, a bit chilly, a bit damp, but it's a long summer. Any horses you've got your eye on or a jockey to follow? It's great to have Sylvester de Sousa back in the mainland over here as well. Any or equine or jockey to follow for the summer?
Yeah, look, he's going to come from Aidan O'Brien's. I'm not going to sit here and go City of Troy because everybody is going to be watching him. However, he's not quite under the radar, but he's rated 119. Henry Longfellow, unbeaten last season, never really fully extended. In each of his 3 wins, he went to the front and pulled himself up. Now, he's not going to turn up, I don't think, at this moment. Best laid plans and all that for the Newmarket Guineas, but he may well go to France. He's all about speed. I think if he kept at about a mile, we could easily see him going through the St. James's Palace. We could see him possibly at Goodwood as well. He's that type of horse. But everything has been circled around or centered around City of Troy. Henry Longfellow hasn't got the recognition he deserves, and he's a rocket.
Not a bad substitute to have. It's all the talk about City of Troy, potential Triple Crown, potentially going to America, of course, on the dirt. What about a man in the saddle? A youngster coming through or a man back here?
A lad who's not recently ridden out his claim, Sean Kiran. Now, everybody will remember him for last season winning on Living the Dream in the Nunthorpe. Now, I thought he was good, adequate, nothing out of the ordinary. He went away to America. He rode in the Breeders' Cup, ran well. He stayed out in the States and he rode against the clock throughout the winter. Now, he's a young jockey who's been to a few different places to sort of get his craft better. I saw him ride a winner the other night at Southwell. And sometimes the jockeys make a big difference. And I was so impressed with the amount that he had improved that it won't be long before trainers latch on to the fact that he's a bonus in the saddle. Lovely and stylish. But if I looked at him winning the Nunthorpe, and you think big race, Group 1, looked fantastic. But I watched him winning at Southwell in a low-grade race and making a massive difference. I just thought he'd taken a significant step forward. Used to get a little bit worried about it mentally, possibly has grown up a bit, physically got stronger. He's a jockey this season.
Brilliant. Sean Kiran, already a Group 1 winning jockey. And I just say to keep an eye on to maybe firing a few winners this campaign. Brilliant. Fingers crossed, then we got a few winners at Doncaster, which would be your best bet on the card on Townmoor. Is it on the 5 races we've discussed?
Yeah, look, probably the easiest one to go with would be Montasib, and it'd be great to see Kieran Fallon back with a winner. But I keep going back. Latam has got to be a big each-way player in the Lincoln. We know he loves a cavalry charge, soft ground, perfect.
Latam in the Lincoln. Nice bit of poetry to it. Right, brilliant to have Jason with us. Join us, Caves, throughout the summer, and hopefully we get off to a winning start on Townmoor on the opening day of the flat racing turf season.